and welcome back. This is episode 2 today. I'm going to be talking about risk versus reward. First of all, if you haven't seen any of this series so far, my morals and values and why I'm talking about my morals and values and the importance of them and why I have these opinions and feel so strongly about them, I highly recommend going back to the first episode where I talk about prioritizing yourself, what it means. There'll be a link in the description to the playlist. There'll also be a link to Candid with Cancer, my blog, which I highly recommend checking out, which will give you a good insight, also and much more detail where this all comes from. But that's enough waffle. Let's get into episode 2, risk versus reward. Risk and reward. But what do I mean by risk versus reward? What does it mean? What does it mean to me? What does it mean to you? And why is it one of my morals and values, and why do I take it and value it so highly and follow it? There's no mean feat, there's no easy way of saying it really, but in simplest terms, we all know what risk and reward is. We all know everything we do in life and partake in, that there's going to be a risk in what we do, but at the end a reward. And that reward varies along with the risk. People tend to say the greater the risk, the greater the reward, and it tends to be true. Most times you hear the risk versus reward is in the corporate world, the business world. People will write down, outlay their options, big corporations, big businesses. They'll find out what their risk is. It tends to be in money, the risk of doing this, we could lose this much money, but if it works out, we can 10x our money. You hear it in trading. Stocks and shares, crypto. It's very much associated with the business world, is it? But for me, it changes. Risk and reward is something we partake in every day, everything we do. One way you can look at it is every action has a consequence. Very much the same as risk versus reward. Everything we do every day, we take risks. That's a risk at what we do. We risk going in the car to drive somewhere. That's a risk. But what's the reward at the end? We get to our destination. Everything we do, we always put something on the line to get something afterwards. And that's life. And that's the way we live. It's the way we do it, but we don't take notice of it. We just do it. We get by with our actions and we go. So what does it mean to me? What does it really mean to me? And why am I talking about it? Why am I here telling you about it? For me, it became important to understand it, is to visualize it, to not just have the ability to understand it and make sense of it, but to actually see it, to know that actually what I am doing, there is a purpose, there is a reason to it. I know if I do this, this could happen. I could get hurt. Something bad could happen, or it might not work out, but I know the reward, whether it works out or doesn't work out, is there. It's going to be huge. And so instead of looking at it in the corporate world and the business world, I changed that. I changed my outlook on it. I changed my perspective. I decided, why not implement this in everyday life, in my thoughts, intrinsically? Why don't I take this and turn it around and make it good? No matter how hard it is, no matter how weird it is and what goes on, why not change this into something that I enjoy and that can actually be for the better? The reason I've looked at risk and reward, and the reason means so much to me, and the way I've looked at it and allowed it to be part of what I'm doing, has very much been in what I'm doing now, is taking this risk to create a life that I want, to help other people, to carry on the legacy of others. There's a huge, huge risk in that with what I'm doing, putting myself out there. Huge risk for myself. And it's scary. It is scary. Being very open, very out there, filming yourself, writing things that are very personal, but knowing that you're doing it for a very good cause, a very good reason. I know the risk is being humiliated, is feeling that no one cares, is feeling that no one ever will care. But I know the reward, and I've said it from the very beginning in the place I got to here of doing everything I'm doing far outweighs the risk. I know if I create the life I want, that's a reward. I know if I just save one person's life or help one person with my writing or my travel videos, my experiences, or just these morals and values, that's a reward. That's a reward far greater than anything you can get. Any money, any materialistic object is something that's so invaluable that pays there. And I know a reward is doing this for all the people who aren't here today, who haven't made it, and living my life to the full, to know that their lives weren't wasted. And there's huge risk in that. More than what I've just said, huge. But the reward is 10x, is far superior. I think another way I look at this as well, the risk versus reward, that's so important to me, is relationships. And you're probably asking why and how. But it's all part of the process. When you meet someone, when you get into a relationship, when you talk to someone, you know the risks. As much as you turn a blind eye at first, you know the risks, and the risks can be catastrophic. And we all know the main one is heartbreak, is losing the person you love, is them not feeling the same way, is putting all this energy in, getting these feelings, feeling the way you feel, for them to walk away. And you know that's going to hurt. You know that's going to be the worst pain you've ever experienced, especially if you think they're the one and the one you want to marry and be with. And these memories you have and the way you feel with them, that's so unique. You know that there is a high chance, there's a chance that one day they could turn around and not feel the same. There's one day that they could die, pass away. There's one day that the unimaginable could happen. You just never know that. But you put the risk and you put yourself out there so much, the risk is catastrophic. But then you don't take part of that. You don't take note of that because you know the reward. And the reward is endless. The reward is something you've never known before, a feeling you'll never have before, a way of life, but you would never have thought it in this way. You would never know. The reward is finding the person you love and being with the person you love forever. Starting a family with the person you love, or whatever it may be. Waking up every day next to the person you love, knowing that the person you love is always there, and you're always going to be there for them. Knowing that these feelings and thoughts, the only person who ever knows them truly is that person. Being yourself around them. The small things that no one else gets to see. Truly being yourself. And someone who supports you no matter what. I could go on endlessly for hours and hours about the rewards, because the rewards are far superior than the risk. But you have to put yourself out there. You have to know that you're going to get hurt. You're going to experience heartbreak. You have to know that this is going to happen. You have to know that it's not all ups. There are going to be downs. But that's where the risk and reward comes into place. That's why you have to take these risks. Because if you just shelter yourself and you're too scared of getting hurt and you don't want to get hurt, you'll never experience reward. You'll always be shut off. It's inevitable. Things in the world, in life, are going to happen. People you love are going to die. Family, friends, pets. You're going to lose people. People grow apart. There's no point just sheltering yourself so you don't get hurt, because it's inevitable. It's going to happen. No point living a miserable life because you're scared of love, because you're scared that you'll find the person and you'll get hurt. No. Go out there. Find that person you love. Love them wholeheartedly. Love them the way you want to love them. Treat them the way they deserve to be treated. Treat them the way you'd want to be treated. Show them that you love them. Do everything you can do. Know you're the best person you can be with them. And yes, you still might get hurt. And there's a lot of risk there. You might get really hurt, but you know the reward of being you, of loving the person you love the way you want to love, and the reward that if it does work out is far superior. And this can be applied, like I said, to every walk of life. We do it anyway, we just don't take notice of it. Go after that reward. Don't be scared of the pain and the risk that could happen. Go for the reward, and I promise you, it's better. This goes well and transitions well into my next point. Make mistakes and have regrets, but learn from them. And what does that mean? What does it mean by make mistakes and have regrets, but learn from them? This one's quite simple. It does what it says on the tin. Go out there. Go and do what you want to do. Go and mess up as many times as you have to mess up. Mess up here, mess up there. Take that risk. You're going to go do something. You make a mistake. Cool. That's fine. You made a mistake. People may care. People don't care. But what's important from that mistake is that you learn from it. You learn from that mistake, so you don't do it again. And this is very practical, but it can also be intrinsic. I know I keep saying intrinsic the way I say it, but you want to make mistakes, otherwise you'd never learn. And if you don't put yourself out there, you're always going to be boring, normal, very similar to the risk and reward. Like I said, if you don't make the mistakes, you're not learning. But it's with these mistakes that you do learn. You hurt someone and you didn't mean to, and you'll say you didn't mean to, and that's fair enough. But what's going to stop you from hurting them again? And it's whether you learn from that mistake or not. Whatever you did, it's whether you actively choose to make yourself a better person and be like, cool, I made a mistake. I lost the person I love because I didn't do X, Y, and Z. But it's about actively seeking then so it doesn't happen again. And it may feel like that's very good for the other person, especially if it is love or family and friends. Okay, I'm not going to do that again because I hurt them and they're not going to hurt again, but what value does it add to me? And I think you'd be surprised the value it does add to you and make you as a person more than you would know. Because if you're a better person, if you stop making the mistakes, people will hold you a much higher value. But not just that, most importantly, just like the first episode, with prioritizing yourself. If you know you're a better person, you know that you're not going to make mistakes, and you know it goes hand in hand with the risk and reward, you can love wholeheartedly your family, friends, and everyone else. Sometimes these mistakes lead to regrets. And this definitely more is going into love and friends and family. You'll make mistakes, and these mistakes will lead to regrets. And people will usually say after a breakup, or they'll say it after they've messed up something so badly that they can't recover it. But how do you stop regrets being regrets? And this is so hard to look at. There is no easy way to put this, and it does take a lot of work to understand this and actually want to make it right. But the way I look at regrets is you only have a regret if you make the same regret over and over and over again. And why is that? Because you're being blissfully ignorant. You know you've made a regret. You know you made a mistake that led to a regret. You know you regret not telling that person you love them. You know you regret not hugging your grandma one more time. You know you regret not sending that card and telling someone you love them and want to hug someone and smile and being the best version of yourself. You regret that. But how do you change that so it doesn't happen again? So when you lose that person that you wish you loved more and could show, how do you get to a point in your life where you said you're 50 years old and you're like, oh man, I wish I did this sooner. I wish I did this sooner. Or for years you've been telling yourself, I want to do this and do this and do this, but you don't do it. You're being blissfully ignorant. And that's where regrets come from. If you make the mistake once, that's fine. If you have that one regret that you know, take it. Take it on the chin. Work on it. Learn from it. You lost someone that you loved and you didn't get to tell them you loved them one last time. Next time, with other people that you already have that you love, tell them all the time that you love them. Be there for them more than you ever thought you could. And at that point, it doesn't become a regret anymore. And that regret became a lesson that you learn from it. And it won't be a regret. Because you know now. And you've learned from it. And you'll never do this be the same again. That's what I mean by make mistakes and have regrets, but learn from them. Really learn from them so they don't become regrets again and again. Because you only have regrets when you repeat the same mistake over and over and over again. And now you know. Let's make no more regrets. Let's all learn from them. Third point today that goes hand in hand with risk and reward is you don't always learn a lesson until you get hurt. Weird one, tough one. Very similar to the regrets, making mistakes. But a little bit more out of your control. A little bit more out of your control that someone else will hurt you, something else can hurt you. And it's from there that you learn. My one analogy I always use is when you were a little kid and your mum or dad or someone that loved you, family, teacher, whatever it may be, told you, don't do that. Don't go and do that because you'll get hurt. And at your young age, naive, blissfully ignorant, you decide, no, I know better. Like, why would they know? How do they know? I'm a little kid. I want to go live my life. I want to go enjoy it. My friends are doing it. But then you go out and you get hurt. You fall over, graze a knee, graze an elbow, break an arm, whatever it may be. And it's not until then that you learn your lesson. Even though someone told you and has told you over and over and over again, it wasn't until you physically got hurt. And this applies mentally as well, physically or mentally, that you learn your lesson. And I think for me, where this comes into play is people can tell you over and over and over again, and people will always look out for you, the ones that love you, friends and family, and they'll tell you you're gonna get hurt, this is gonna hurt, blah blah blah. I tell people all the time, people tell me, I'm telling you now. It doesn't mean you're not gonna get hurt. But where this comes into me is you've gotta go and get hurt sometimes. You've gotta go and risk it. You have to go and get hurt. You can't just shelter yourself forever and ever and ever and be scared of it. You need to go and get hurt. Go and have that heartbreak. Go and lose a person that you love that you thought was the one. Get hurt, extremely hurt. And that's fine to be hurt, but it's then up to you to learn a lesson from it, and take what you want from it. But it can happen in every walk of life. Take that risk, quit your job, go and do what you want to go do. Cool, it might hurt because you might not have as much money coming in, you might not have any money. You might lose a few friends who don't support you, and that might hurt, but you learn from it because you become inevitably a better person. You become more you, the person you want to be. And it does very much go hand in hand with making mistakes and regrets, but this one's a little bit more out of your control. Because you don't choose if you get hurt or not, but you can learn a lesson from it. So, you don't always learn a lesson unless you get hurt. Fourth point, this one applies very much to a lot of things, and I think very much anxiety. Anxiety because you're scared to take the risk to get the reward. Anxiety because you don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to have regrets. Anxiety that you've made a mistake, that you have a regret. Anxiety and panicking that you're never going to learn that lesson. Anxiety that you're going to get hurt, so you will never learn that lesson because you don't want to put yourself out there. And this is one I stand by, and this is one that's worked wonders for me, and is probably one of the best little sayings I came up with myself. And I was just driving along one day, I think it was, and it just came to me. It just happened. It just came out of nowhere, and I just it just resonated with me so much. And when I have my panic attacks and my anxiety is really high and at a place, and I'm scared to take that leap of faith, and I'm scared to do anything, I come back to this one saying, this one little saying, and it changes everything. And so this is probably the most important one to me. Yes, it comes under the sub-bracket of risk versus reward, but this saying itself. Turn worst case scenario to best case scenario. What do I mean though? What does that mean? It means a lot. The easiest way to put it, it means so much. But for me, the way it comes with anxiety is because you're overthinking. You're overthinking about every small situation, every scenario, the way you said something, the way you said I love you, the way someone said I love you to you, the way you did something earlier at work, you put something away wrong. It could be absolutely anything. You're worrying about your life, your career. I could be worrying about someone loving me, and I'm scared. I could be scared, and I'd be lying if I wasn't. I'm scared that this won't work out. I'm scared to go traveling. I'm scared to go do new experiences. I'm scared to do things, and I am. At certain times when my anxiety is peak and is really high, and there's times in my life where I've been in places where it cripples you, it overtakes you, and you can't escape the panicking, the dark thoughts. But what I mean by this is when you have those thoughts and those dark places and you're overthinking about things that are out of your control, totally out of your control, that you can't have any say. You're overthinking about the future, you're worrying about the past, two things that you have no control in. All you can do is be present and be where you are today. What I mean by this is when you're thinking of that, you're obviously thinking of worst case scenario. You are literally thinking of the worst things that can happen to you. And one way I found to overcome that and to put yourself in a new position, actually pause. Put pause on your mind. Take that scenario you're putting yourself in and flip it on its head. Flip it on its head and turn it to best case scenario. What could be best case scenario? So much. So much more. If I decided not to go and not do any of it, I would have had regrets. Because I've made mistakes like that before. And so if I didn't go, I would have had huge regrets. And it would have been disastrous. I would know it physically and mentally that I haven't gone and done this. That I'm just sat at home doing nothing when I could be there. What was I going to do on those weekends? Just sit at home and watch football? There's so much more to life. That's what I realised. And that's what I mean by turn worst case to best case. If you're panicking, if you've got anxiety, if you don't know what's going on because you're worrying about the past or you're overthinking about the future, at the end of the day, none of them are in your control. So instead of thinking worst case, just think best case. Just think best case, and ultimately it's going to be better. That's what you have to do. I'm not saying it's a right or wrong way, but that's what you have to do. Why let something cripple you? Why let something overtake you? Turn worst case into best case. I could go on and on and on. I'm sure as you probably see from some of my videos, I love to waffle. And I could talk about in depth so much more any of these. And I love talking about them. I love talking about how they can help you, what they mean to me, how I came up with them, how I implement them, and what they mean to me going forward. I think it's very important. But I've got so many more videos to come, so many different morals and values just on the wall over there that I can't wait to talk to you about. And like I said, they're ever changing, they're ever adapting, they're dynamic, and I'm ever learning. I'm constantly making mistakes myself. I constantly have regrets, but I learn from them. I'm constantly getting hurt, but you know what? From that hurt, I become a better person. I learn lessons. I'm constantly turning the worst case into best case and going with it. Ultimately, I'm constantly taking risks, but reaping the rewards, because that's what we have to do. So, one thing from all of this that you heard: risk versus reward. Take that risk. Now you have the tools to understand if you get hurt, if it doesn't work out, you have the regrets, if you overthink and you panic. They're risks, but the reward from all of them are so far greater. So, from risk versus reward, take that risk, because then the reward will find you, and you'll be forever grateful with yourself that you did it. If you guys are enjoying this series, if you guys are enjoying what I'm doing, sitting down in front of a camera and just talking through what I know, my knowledge and wisdom, it would mean so much to me if you could go down and subscribe and you could like the videos. It would mean so much if you could also leave a comment just saying, actually, if any of them stand out to you, if any of them make sense to you, if there's some that you're going to take away and enjoy, or there's ones that you're like, hang on a second, why are you saying that? That doesn't make sense to me. I'm always open to hear, and I'd love to hear. But I'd love to know if they are helping you and any of this series helps you. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week with episode 3 of my morals and values.